Everybody, and welcome to today's TOC podcast. I'm Joe Weichert, Chair of O'Reilly's Tools of Change Conference. Today's podcast is brought to you by Publishers Weekly, our TOC event partner. TOC now has a monthly column called Perspectives that provides analysis of publishing trends and topics in PW, and you can read those articles on publishersweekly.com and in their print edition. Our TOC theme this month is pricing, and I'm joined by Rafiq Ahmed, CEO and co-founder of DemiBooks. I invited Rafiq to speak with us because as the leader of a publishing startup, he's got some interesting thoughts on content pricing and experiments. So Rafiq, welcome to today's TOC podcast.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, Joe, for having me. It's a pleasure to always be here with TOC.
Oh, glad to have you. So Rafiq, can you tell us a little bit about DemiBooks to start things off and the various products that you offer?
Sure. So DemiBooks provides publishing platforms for interactive content, particularly book apps. And we were founded in the summer, early fall of 2010, so we're just under 2 years. Andy Skinner, Chris Rusin, Dan Hotop are the other co-founders. We're based in Chicago, and we have a development center in Sydney, Australia. Our vision was to create a platform that anyone could use to make book apps, children's picture books and graphic stories without learning how to code, without the need for coding. So our flagship product is Composer. It launched in the fall of 2011. We now have a pro version of Composer that's about to release here, hopefully soon. And really, the workflow is you create the picture book right on the iPad. That's what's really unique and different about it. It's very powerful. It's affordable. And it really it really drives down the cost of developing these book apps from hiring software engineers and spending tens of thousands of dollars. You make a little bit of an investment in learning how to use our platform. Once the book app is ready on the iPad, it's sent to our back-end service. It's called PrintShop. We have a publishing fee for producing, for compiling the book and finishing the book and putting it into the App Store. For distribution, these are book apps, so they go into the App Store. We also have launched a marketplace called Storytime. Storytime is a curated multi-publisher marketplace for composer-based books. And it's backed up by a partner, Usborne Books and More. They have about 7,000 sales consultants going into hundreds of thousands of consumer homes. So it's a very interesting concept to try to bring a real-world sales force into distributing apps. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Okay, so I think what's interesting about what you're doing within DemiBooks from a pricing point of view, again, is that you're seeing both sides of the formula here. So on the one hand, you're selling both a content development platform as well as the products that it creates, and each have their own pricing challenges. So can you first tell us some of the lessons you've learned in pricing the DemiBooks Composer platform?
Right. So, we're a software tools provider. So our primary focus is software, but being in that space has also opened up the publishing channel to us, and so through Storytime, we're also playing publisher, or at least a marketplace, if you will. So we do see both sides of this. So let's start with Composer first. Yeah, for a startup, pricing is an art, and it's an evolving, form, if you will. So we started with a free product, and we still have a free Composer product. We want as many people as possible to download it. On the publishing side, we took a look at what we thought were our customers in terms of people that might want to do all of the Apple, developer certification and all of the compiling and all of these things themselves, where we would do some of that, and finally where people might even ask us to help them with the experience plan for a book app. So we had 3 different levels, and we found that there was traction at only one of those levels, which is basically, hey, can you get this app done for us? Well, so publishers or independent storytellers are using our platform. They send us the book app. We finish it, we compile it, we put it into the App Store. So starting in July, or as soon as Composer Pro goes live in the App Store, what we'll have is a very simple model. We will continue to have the free app, the free Composer app. We'll also have a paid Composer app that'll retail at $19.99, and we'll charge $499 per title to publish it into the App Store and to provide test builds and so forth. So it's a much simpler model.
Okay.
We'll provide some discounting on those prices for some initial period of time as well.
Okay, and then
so that's
so that makes sense then on the Composer side. How about as you work to price products that consumers buy? What sort of pricing lessons have you learned on that side of the business?
Well, the main point about pricing is everyone wants something to be free and as cheap as possible, and that's been sort of the main challenge I think everyone is facing, not just DemiBooks or independent storytellers or publishers who use our platform. We don't price the final book apps. That's up to the content producers and the content owners. However, we're always asked for advice. So from a McGraw-Hill Education who uses our platform, or Kane Miller, all the way to independent startup studios who are starting to create their own apps. Typically, it's still $4.99 and below for book apps on the App Store. And it's a little bit, I think, upside down that you have the most enhanced reading experiences sell at a much lower price than very basic ebooks that you might find on Kindle or Nook and so forth. So this is still an inverted process. I'm not sure that anybody's got a real solution to it yet. So what we found that content marketing is really important, and having a platform. So established authors, of course, have a platform. Publishers have a platform, but for everyone across the board, really being able to use social media properly is essential. Being able to get on the review sites is essential. Being able to have App Store reviews is essential, and more. All of these different channels are getting crowded. So if you send in, a review to moms with apps, you're not guaranteed to get a review. But it's really building up those platforms that still make a huge difference.
Yeah. As a reminder, today's podcast is brought to you by TOC's event partner, Publishers Weekly. I'm speaking with Rafiq Ahmed, CEO and co-founder of DemiBooks. And it's interesting, Rafiq, that you talk about how your richer apps have to be $4.99 or less, whereas quick and dirty print conversions of traditional ebooks are typically about $10. And I'd like to think that's going to turn around here at some point. But let's shift gears for a moment. And you mentioned before about low pricing kind of driving things. Well, what role does free play in both the DemiBooks Composer platform as well as the ebooks created with it?
We get a lot of feedback on so what sort of pricing would make sense for our customers. Our customers, again, are established publishers such as a McGraw-Hill or Kane Miller, all the way to somebody that just has a dream of creating a children's picture book for the first time. And so you can see that it's two different budgets, two different price points. But we've resisted putting Composer and the publishing service out there for zero, for free. There is definitely a lot of feedback and school of thought that everything should be free, monetize the content. But to monetize the content means we need to revenue share with the content owners. And that's tricky. Apple takes 30%, there's 70% left. And with the way that you get paid by Apple, it's really difficult from an accounting standpoint. At least from a startup perspective, it's not a direction we wanted to go in. So we're not taking any sort of revenue share for the books that are in the App Store. However, with Storytime, we do take a revenue share. And that is to compensate for the fact that we're marketing the product, we're marketing with our Salesforce partners. So we think it's going to probably play out where our publishing cost can come down as we automate more and truly sort of create a back-end platform that does all of the heavy lifting. At a lower cost, we can get our costs down. When it comes to the book apps themselves, we've seen a few tactics work where, if you're bundling print and digital, we've seen some publishers with QR codes in a print book, and suddenly you'll get spikes on your digital site. So there really isn't, I don't think there's a need to give away the books, the final book apps for free. I think the industry should resist that. I mean, after all, this is a business. And as much as, consumers love the 99-cent apps or love the freebies on the iPad, this is a book. And it's not just a book, it's an enhanced reading experience, well thought through, hopefully, well architected, well designed. There is value in that. And it's just going to take a little bit longer than we all thought when we started out. So I do hope that across the board there is resistance to just pricing it lower and lower and undercutting it, because that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, by the way, I think that DemiBooks and companies like DemiBooks can do for publishers and just IP owners is help them understand more about what their customers are doing with that content. And so I believe there's an analytics component to Composer, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can just tell you a little bit about it. We're in beta with some of those features. But yeah, the idea is in Composer, of course, we have some analytics that tell us a lot more now about our Composer users and where what features they seem to be using more or less. This is aggregated data, so it's not that creepy. When we first started, we didn't have much analytics at all. So take that same concept into the end consumer books. And many authors and publishers have asked us for a similar set of analytics, so we're looking into putting that in. And really what it'll help do is create better reading experiences. So when you look at the aggregated data, you know what animations people are loving and sort of restarting over and over again, or what pages they spend more time on, what pages they blow by. Are they really reading the text, or are they just playing with the interactive content, which is something that you don't want. It is, after all, a book. So, this is the sort of data that we're trying to get to, and hopefully can provide a dashboard to some of our authors. And from that, they could either create upgrades or they have more insight into their next production. Mm-hmm, so okay. That's coming. I don't have a timetable yet, but it's in beta.
Okay, yeah. Well, keep us alert to when you release that, so we can let the audience know. I wanted to circle back. The last question I have for you kind of talks about one of the issues you brought up before, and that's discoverability. I feel like it's a problem that's only going to get worse as there are more and more products out there. And so I was kind of curious if you could tell us a little bit more about how you're solving the discoverability problem within DemiBooks and for your customers.
Well, for our customers, let's start there first. We have launched Storytime, which is a curated marketplace, right, for composer-based books. And by bringing in a sales force, that's a very unique proposition that a lot of different e-readers of our smaller scale is not able to do. So I think that's going to be a game changer. We're also deeply connected with Facebook, and so from a social and viral standpoint, anything that you read in Composer, anything you purchase, any books that you rate, this gets shared. So having an excited sales force, I was just down at the Usborne Books and More convention a couple of weekends ago, and just having an excited sales force does make a difference. Of course, they get compensated for the Usborne brand of books, which is Usborne and Kane Miller. They get compensated better, but they also drive their consumers to Storytime as a whole. So I think that would help, and it's those types of things that can help sort of drive more people to the product. I think just tossing it out in the App Store is still a very long shot for most authors without a platform. So that's one thing we've done, and we'll learn, and we're in a continuous learning mode as to what works, what doesn't work, and what we can tweak. As far as DemiBooks itself, I mean, we are, we're not always able to market ourselves to the extent that we'd like to. It's just staying relevant, being at the right conferences, partnering up with the right strategic partners. And I think that's one of the key things we're looking at. And hopefully there'll be some announcements coming in the next few months on how we could scale our business with the right strategic partners.
Okay, terrific.
So that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to hearing more from you on that too, because again, I do feel like discoverability is just an enormous issue, and it's getting worse, and it's a surprising one, I think, for a lot of new authors and so forth. So more to come on that. Rafiq Ahmed of DemiBooks, thank you so much for talking to us today on this TOC podcast.
Thank you so much for having us, Joe. And again, go to demibooks.com for more information and watch the videos that we have on Composer and Storytime.
Terrific. Thanks.